Welcome to another episode of the Dani Ariza podcast. Today I am with Jordan Zuber.
Perfect.
And which I forgot. Which real estate company do you work
Oh,
for?
I'm with Real.
Oh yeah, look at this. That's how good my pre-production.
Yeah, we're off to a hot start.
we were doing. Yeah. How's it going, man?
Everything's good, man.
Yeah.
It's a good day. We got a break in the rain finally.
Yeah.
I've been fighting off allergies for a while. We're getting personal right out of the gate.
No,
been fighting off allergies.
Open it up.
And for 2 weeks, I haven't been able to breathe out of my nose at all.
Oh, Jesus.
So I've been super nasally, and for 2 weeks, I'm just like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to talk on the podcast. I'm not going to be able to breathe on the podcast. But I just knew I would wake up today, and I'd be good, and I'd be breathing. And here we are, and I'm not as nasally as I've been, so I feel good. I'm happy to be here.
It's horrible, man. By Bridgewater, it just like the car, like everything, like the stairs, like my whole house. I painted the house white last year,
And now it's yellow.
it's like greenish.
Yeah.
You know, it's horrible. I've been going back and forth with the hose and just trying to clean it up and stuff. But yeah, man.
I knew I'd be able to pull it So.
Yeah, you came through, man. A little late. You came out like 20 minutes late, but that's
No,
good.
edit that out.
So tell me about yourself, man. Like, how you're a real estate agent. How long
Yeah.
have you been doing this?
So I got my license in November of 22.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. It really starts with the purchase of my house. I kind of fell into real estate. I was doing project management at the time for a big corporate company, doing project management for construction in the city. And I was living in Union City, which was a great commute to New York.
Is that where you're from originally, or?
No, I'm from Monmouth County.
Oh, Mama, okay.
So I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick, and then I just continued to move further north. I lived in Bloomfield for a little bit. I lived in Springfield for a little bit.
Nice.
And then my roommate at the time was like, oh, let's move to Union City. And I was like, I have no idea where that is, but sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We had parking. It was a 2-bedroom unit in a multifamily in a duplex. He found it on Craigslist. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
That's a big thing with parking over there nowadays.
Oh yeah,
that's
it's
huge.
great. Yeah, so we started renting there about 8 years ago, and I don't know. After 4 years, the landlord called me up, and he was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to sell the house. Are you interested?" And at the time, I was like, "No, I'm terrified. I can't do that. I can't afford a house. I'm not ready for that." So I called my roommate, and I was like, "Hey, Brad called me, and he's going to sell the house." And he says, "Yeah, I know. I talked to him. I'm buying it." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. I don't have to move. I don't have to deal with anything crazy."
Yeah.
But then I started paying him rent, and I was like, "Why didn't I do that?" That was a number that was not that crazy at the time. It was like $465, and I was like, "That's not too crazy. I could have probably pulled that out."
Yeah.
So I think that's where I had the first idea. Maybe I'm almost ready, and I should start looking for a house.
Yeah.
So then I spoke to my neighbor, who's this sweet woman named Grace. She's lived on the street for forever, knows everybody, bakes Christmas cookies for everyone around the holidays and brings them around.
Those are the best neighbors.
Yeah, knows all the secrets, which was important. So I saw her outside, and I was like, "Hey, Grace, tell the next house over." That guy lived in Florida. I was like, "Tell him to sell me his house." And so she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll talk to him, And about a month goes by, and I see her outside, and she's like, "Oh, he says you should give him a call." So we had one phone conversation, and this was in November of 21, maybe December of 21. So we had one. So it was a crazy market, super aggressive. Things on the market were going way over ask. So we had one phone conversation, and then he was just like, "Yeah, let's figure it out. Talk to my realtor." And I spoke to her, and honestly, the whole time I felt like she was representing both of us fairly. I felt like she was on my side for a lot of things, and I was happy about that. So we settled on a number. We kept it off market, and then I closed on it in February of 22.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a long-winded story, but
but that's you're probably one of the lucky ones, because that time it was just nuts. You could not find a house anywhere.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I think back, people tell you if you want to look off market, talk to people, tell people what you're looking for, maybe call sellers or send postcards or whatever it may be. And those things they're tough, and you have to keep doing it over and over again. But in this case, like I spoke it out to one person and it came back to me and it returned and it was awesome. So at that point, it's a 2-family home, and I got a tenant upstairs. I moved into it, and I got the first rent check, and it just like opened my mind up, and I was like,
oh my God, like, I'm making money.
I was like, what am I doing? I was doing project management, like I said. I was making like $100,000 plus a bonus, and like at the time looking at it, I'm like, this is not enough. Like this is not. I'm not doing this until I'm 65 and then retiring, and at that point, I'm not going to have enough money to live anyway. So like that's just not how I want to live my life. And then real estate opened my eyes to it, because I was like, oh, this now all of a sudden I'm paying $300 a month and I'm living in the house and I'm getting the equity and I'm getting the appreciation.
I feel like I think I've spoken about this in other podcasts with my partner, but it's like most people fall into this industry by accident. Yeah. It's like everyone knows how, hey, you could be a real estate agent, you could be mortgages, but then all it takes is one transaction or just being, or a bad experience sometimes. Just to basically, get you in there, It's, there's so many people out there that have built wealth by just starting the same way. That you have.
I mean, my background, like my family didn't invest in real estate. They were like scared of real estate. And even when I was under contract and I was like looking at the numbers, I mean, looking back on it, I'd be brain dead to not purchase it, because it was, the rates were super low and it was an amazing time. But at the time I was terrified, and I was like, what if I can't make this payment?
I mean, what I always tell people when it comes to that is that, listen, because I have some people that come in and, what happens if I lose a job? I'm like, well, what happens to your rent if you lose your job? If you lose your job, you're still gonna have to pay rent. You still need a roof. That's the thing. So there's no way around that. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong. I spoken in the past. I had a property myself, and I had a nightmare, which it was just horrible. Where like it took me like years to get people out and everything. But
you had to like evict tenants?
So just to not to change the subject and go into that, but basically
we can go to that.
But I had a 2-family in Bellevue. That's last of my properties before I kind of just got out of this whole thing, where it was like the lady in the first floor, very good tenant, but God knows what happened at some point. I never pay attention to it. I was like, okay, you get the money, that's it. Bottom line was that when I had some financial issues and I wanted to sell the house, it just became a mess. And then I found out that she had 30 dogs in the basement. 30? 30. Wow. So it took me...
That's a dream for some people.
Yeah. And then on top of that, but not in a basement, maybe in a farm.
Maybe not for your tenant either.
My wife always says, I want to just move out to a farm and with a bunch of dogs, and I don't want to talk to anybody. Maybe that's a dream, but not in Belleville in a 500 square feet basement.
Okay, yeah, sure. But fine, I'll give you that.
But that took like. It was horrible. It was like a year to just get this person out, and on top of that, like they had rented a room in the attic where it was just a mess. So like I always tell people, there's always issues with real estate. Right. You just have to have the right people next to you to advise you, so that whenever if you do become an investor, if you just want to buy yourself for yourself, you need to be ready to have the right team next to you, because it's just impossible to know it all.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you got them out and you got past it, and you moved on. Like, you're gonna face some sort of hardship, you're gonna have a challenge, but a lot of it is just mental. It's like, if my phone rings, am I gonna react to it and be like, this is a disaster, I hate this, I hate real estate? Or you can have a different attitude about it, like, oh, I'm lucky I'm in this position where I have rental property, and this tenant that pays me on time, they just have an issue, so they're calling me and I'm going to fix it. And then back to being lucky and happy,
I mean, anything that's worth it is going to have some obstacles, you know.
Yeah.
Anything. There's always some, you know, even when people go into this industry, I tell them, like, look, you know, you have to think about the long-term picture.
Yeah.
And because you're going to face so many issues along along the road to success.
Yeah.
That you have to be thinking about that long-term goal in order to get you there, because every deal, you've seen it, like you have a deal and it's like, oh my God, there's an issue here, there's an issue there. Like, what do I do? And if you start freaking out about everything, you're not going to be able to get the job done.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just keep on pushing.
It's like what you said too. It's like who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people that are like collaborative and they're going to lift you up and they're going to help you, and you do the same for them, then you can get through it. You can get through whatever the problem is. So
yeah.
I'm glad you made it out.
Yeah. Trust me. I could do like a whole podcast series about the issues I went through, but this is about you anyway.
So I bought the property. I got a rent check, and I just was like amazed. I was like, if I buy a couple of these, you know, then when I'm 65, they'll be paid off. I won't have to worry about a 401k. I mean, I have one, but I'll have a backup plan. I don't have to rely on Social Security or some crazy. I don't have to rely on anyone. I could build it for myself. So that was kind of where my head was at.
Did you buy any other properties besides that one, or?
Yeah, so I had some mentors, and somebody suggested. My first thought was, I can get the license so that I can buy properties. It would be easier to buy properties. And my mentor was like, yeah, you should get a license. Everyone should have a license. And it's funny because I've actually never used my license for my own investing.
For your own investing.
But it's paid off. And like, it's opened up a whole different world to me as a realtor, because obviously, you know, I host the event. Now I work with people, I work with friends. I have clients that are looking for either an investment property or a personal property to, you know, grow their family in, or to sell their property. And I'm very happy that I'm in the position where I can help them do that, and, you know, try to get top dollar for what they're doing.
Yeah, and you're giving them, I mean, you have the expertise and the knowledge already to be able to advise people on these type of transactions.
Yeah.
Because you did it yourself. And that's a big thing, because, you know, a lot of people just don't, you know, they rely on the wrong people, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to learn every day, but
no, it is. I
won't let that comment get to my head.
But now, what's your expertise? So, like, you know, what's your niche? Obviously, you can help anybody, but why do people come to you when it comes to selling or buying a house?
So again, we can touch on the event, but I host the event every month in Jersey City, and that's gauged towards like investors. So a lot of my clients come from that, and from like referrals from the event. So I get people that are looking for like a two-family or a small multifamily, and they want to find a way to start investing. And I like doing that because, you know, I'm not an expert, even though you said I have an expertise. I'm not an expert, but
we're always an expert to a certain level.
Sure. Okay. But
there's always someone that knows less than you.
I definitely have value that I can bring to these people. Yeah. So I like to speak with like first-time investors, and then try to see their plan and their vision and how we can make that happen, but also give them like the realities of the market in North Jersey. I remember I had someone that early on, you know, they were watching Bigger Pockets and they were reading the books and everything like that. And so when they would evaluate a property, you know, they would put costs in that are for like a totally different area of the country. Or they would have like 10% in reserves, 10% for vacancy, 10% for like capital expenses. And like right away I was like, you're just not going to have a turnkey property, two-family on the market in North Jersey where you could take 30% of the rents and just pocket it for future, and then still make cash flow. It's not going to happen. So it's good to you know, see their vision, but also give them the reality of the market. And I'm a believer that like investing in real estate can really like change your life and create like massive wealth. So I like that I can have that effect on people. I can help you take your first step or your second or wherever you may be at, to starting to grow that wealth. And
Yeah.
That's special to me.
So what made you start the event? Because I've been to it a couple times. I have to say the energy. I mean, it's great. It's very laid back.
Yeah.
I was surprised because I was like, everyone knows that everyone's looking to connect with other people.
Yeah.
And it's a great event. I was quite impressed with that. How long have you been doing it?
So I started the event in January of 23. So like 1 month basically into having my license. I think I always knew I would do something like that. And my first thought, I had some hesitation because I was like, I've had my license for a month. Like, I'm not an expert. I don't know if I should host this event yet. Maybe I'll wait for 2 years or 3 years and then I'll start hosting the event. But thankfully, I didn't listen to those thoughts in my head. There was a little bit of an opportunity that came up in the market. Mm-hmm. There was an event I was going to all the time, and they had their last event either in like November or December of 2022. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what helped like mentally push me over, because I was like, well, I mean, that event is no longer happening. Like, why can't I host it like they're hosting it? Like, I can bring in, I don't have to be the expert. I can bring people in that are the experts. I'm never going to be the expert in everything. You can invest in like an infinite number of ways. I'm not going to be the best like house flipper or small multifamily or out-of-state investor or Airbnb or midterm rental. But I can, reach out to people and get one expert in each thing and have them come speak and just create an environment where, people come, they feel welcome, they want to collaborate, they want to learn together and grow together. And I'm blown away sometimes at how it's grown. I don't really know how, but listen, but it's great.
You started,
yeah.
Because when I was there, I was talking to I have his name somewhere, but he was like a CEO of a technology company.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I was it's like so you had a mix of people.
Yeah,
and sometimes you don't have to be an expert. You just have to know the right people.
Yeah, and honestly, the event where it's helped me the most is like it has allowed me to meet a ton of people and bring people in to speak that are like light years ahead of me at the time or at the moment, which has been huge because it's huge for my own growth and my own experience, and I can learn from them, and also bring people to also learn from them so that like everyone can get better.
Yeah.
I just try to. When I host it, I try to connect with everyone. When I see new faces, I try to run over to them and introduce myself. I always ask, where did you find the event from? And I try to hear like what they're looking for. Like, if you're a lender, you want to talk to probably realtors mostly. Mm-hmm. If you're, I don't know, if you're interested in like Airbnbs, I'm going to try to connect you with somebody who I know successfully runs Airbnbs. If you're interested in like larger commercial stuff, then I'm going to I'll look around the room and I'll be like, oh, that guy, he focuses on big apartments. Like, go talk to him. So that's just like one way that I can provide the value by just like making that cohesive environment. And I think that's what has helped a lot. Cause like most of the time the feedback I get is like first time people are like, wow, I felt great there. It was very easy to talk to people. Everyone was nice. Everyone was kind, friendly, helpful. So that's what my goal has been.
And I got that energy too when I was there. And in my case, many times I think that the times I have been most successful is when I take the approach of how can I help.
Yeah,
and that's how I felt. At that, at the events when I've been there, where it's like, okay, there's always people like, hey, how can I help the other person?
Yeah,
because that's how you find problems and solutions,
Yeah.
But how was the first event? Like, was there a lot of people? How many people were there? Was it at the same place?
Yeah, I've been at the brewery. I think there was 1 month when I combined with Mike Wilch's event.
Oh, okay.
And we were out at in Edgewater. Usually in like December, like the holiday month. we collaborate because, people are busy.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do an event like, you host the first week, I'll host the next week, you host the third week, because people are tired. They have holiday parties, they have their own families and things.
There's a lot going on there.
So we've collaborated the past couple Decembers. So the first, 2023, I went to Edgewater for Mike's event. Mike is he's a little more bougie than I am. So he wanted to go to you are, Mike. He wanted to go to the pier. I like the brewery. I like where we're at 902 Brewery.
Yeah, he's looking for the fancy French restaurant.
Yeah, Michelin star.
Yeah.
So we combined and we went there, but every other time has been at 902 Brewery. And I think that has helped a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great venue, and I feel like they appreciate me going there once a month because, Tuesday nights at the brewery are quiet. But not when we're there.
Yeah, there's no football. There's nothing. You got the event,
Yeah. And that's been helpful because, it's consistent. It's every month we're at 902 Brewery, and it's usually the fourth Tuesday. So I try to keep, the timing of the month the same, the day of the week. I get the same pizza because it's delicious pizza.
Yeah. It was pretty good, yeah. Had 2 slices. But
Good. So I try to just stay there every month.
And you focus you have the same formula for every event where it's like, okay, just going to get one speaker, open up for questions.
Yeah.
Or
for the most part, you were there. It's very casual, and that's how I like it. I don't want it to be like everyone shows up with a notebook. That's it's a different event. That's a great event for a different time and place. But that's not what I don't want people showing up with a notebook to sit down and just take notes. I want them to really focus on the networking and meeting people and talking to people one-on-one or in small groups. I do like to have one speaker usually. And then I don't know, it might evolve. Sometimes people reach out. I never like it to get pitchy.
Yeah.
But there might be a couple pitches coming one day.
Hey,
Yeah.
Listen,
I try to keep it short though. I've given some people, once in a while I'll give someone the mic and they can say, I try to keep, I was telling you, you have 2 minutes. That's it.
Yeah.
You have 2 minutes to say whatever it is. Or once in a while, my buddy Scott Somsel does a lot of really great fundraising and, really good philanthropic things. So when he reaches out, I like to push his stuff as much as I can too.
Yeah. There's always a time and place for everything. Yeah. You kind of have to make things that go with you're looking to help, you're looking to provide that experience. Yeah. So that's that always helps. Yeah. But do you have any bigger plans for the event? Anything are you looking to expand or anything exciting coming up, or you want to just keep
exciting.
They're all exciting.
Super exciting. Yeah. May 20th.
May 20th.
That's the next one. That should be a great one. Brett Sikora from the Align team.
Oh, okay.
Is speaking. So I'm looking forward to that one. But for now, it's just every month. That's my indefinite plan. I'm just going there every month until something changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
I've thought about bigger stuff at some point, a larger event, and that could be one where it's mostly educational, where you go and bring your notebook and take notes and learn, and but not yet. Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you see the market right now in real estate? How do you see things going on, inventory? What's your opinion of this current market in North Jersey?
I think we're still in a tough spot for buyers.
Yeah.
North Jersey is aggressive. If you have a desirable home, it's modernized, it's in a good area, then you're probably getting multiple offers still. Probably a lot of waivers still. I'd say it's still a strong seller's market. I'm starting to see some things that are less desirable maybe, or lingering a little bit longer, or maybe 3 or 4 offers as opposed to 15 offers we see sometimes. But it's still tough. The rates have where are we at now? 6.8, 6.9?
6.8, yeah. More like 7 today. Yeah, it's been
so I feel like they've been lingering kind of for a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's not very affordable for people, but
it's honestly, I never thought that this market, that the prices would stay this high after the rates went up so high so quick. And it just
it's tough too because people like see headlines or read like an article, and like other areas of the country have dropped a little bit. Maybe some Texas areas, maybe some Florida. I'm not an expert in those areas, but so if a headline is showing like an average of the country, you might see like some softer prices. But in North Jersey, it has just held strong, and it's like if you're buying right now, I always just tell people like if it's you're not going to time the market. You know that, I know that. So if you personally are ready to buy, then it's a good time. And
yeah, it's I mean, so some places in Florida, because I do some business in Florida, it just basically like things are sitting there for 6 months with no offers. It's just a lot of the insurance, but here it's a complete 180.
Yeah,
it's a complete 180, and I think a lot of buyers end up looking at the headlines and they just there's just so much misinformation nowadays.
Yeah,
there's just so many things that really don't apply to their situation.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to just have somebody that you trust that knows what's going around in order to tell you the reality of this market.
And it's like we were talking about before we started, but a lot of times like people come in with a budget in their head and they try that for 4 months or 5 months, and then a year after that they go up 100,000 and then they get into something. But
and anytime I sit down with a buyer, I go ahead and be like, okay, the first thing I ask is, what is the maximum that you're comfortable paying per month for this house? And then I go ahead and say, okay, look, just keep an open mind. Whenever I see that number, it's like, I want to do 2,500. I'm like, like, listen, I don't
me
want
too.
to. Yeah, me too. But I'm like, I'm not telling you this to discourage you, but it's very unlikely that you get 2,500. And I think that's it's just expectations, managing expectations.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's really a big part of our job.
Yeah,
because a lot of people look, you're excited, you feel like you can buy a house. Some people have, which is the sad part in a way, which is some people have very good credit score. They have an okay down payment. They save $50,000-$60,000. They make $120,000.
Yeah,
and which is good money.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if you're buying a house in North Jersey,
it doesn't go as far as it used to. No,
it doesn't go as far as it used to. Yeah. So what do you tell, how do you approach that situation with first-time home buyers or like first-time investors?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. You just have to set the expectation. Like what I was saying too. If you're analyzing properties and you're, pocketing 10% for vacancy, 10% for maintenance, and 10% for capital expenses, nothing is going to pencil out. So, you have to manage that expectation and like show them the truth. You don't want to, it's not that you want to be, whatever, positive or negative or anything. You want to just show them the truth and be like, these are the comps are saying it's going to sell for this. So, if you want to have a chance at it, like this is where the number has to be. Yeah. And if you're not able to, or if you don't want to pay that much, then we need to look at a lower range, like some things, if they're going over it, like Essex County is like notorious for going way over asking price.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to pay that full like retail price, then you need to look one step lower on the asking price, because if it's listed for whatever $699, it's not selling for that. It's going to sell way above that still, 8, 9. So.
Yeah, it's I mean, houses that have everything done, that don't need much work, they're just flying. Yeah. Everyone wants them because there's no many, like, people don't have extra money to fix homes nowadays. I feel like a lot of people have the money to get in still, but not many people have the money to get in and spend $50,000-$100,000 fixing it.
And sometimes I try to like advise my clients about that as well. Because like if we're walking a property, I don't know, let's say the property has a septic tank, and if they're already stretching themselves thin, it's like, well, the house is 40 years old. I can almost guarantee that the septic tank is original. Mm-hmm. So when you get the inspection, they're going to say it's at the end of life. So like if you're buying this and you have $1,000 left in your bank account, like it's probably not the right house. You know, you need that extra money, 30 grand or whatever for the septic tank.
Yeah. Now, how do you go about dealing with those conversations when it comes to the inspection? Because, for those who don't know, the inspection is always a tricky time. Because especially for like a first-time home buyer who's never dealt with anything like this. Yeah. An inspector is not there to tell you good things about the house.
That's why you need the right inspector. They shouldn't sugarcoat it by any means. But they should tell you. They should just be realistic. It's like if you have a cracked joist in a floor or in your attic or something, like technically that could be called structural, right? Does that mean the house is going to fall over? No. What's the cost to fix that? Maybe $500 or something. So if you're just realistic with the buyers, and you could be like, listen, that's cracked, but like $500 and you're good. Water heaters are, people look at like the age of a water heater and it's like, oh, this is going to fail soon. It's like, yeah, but of all the things that can go wrong in your house, the water heater is a pretty good one to go wrong. Yeah. Like you pay $1,800 or whatever and you move on. It's not like, your major, your AC or your furnace or your boiler or your roof or your foundation. Like there's magnitudes to the cost, Yeah. So you just kind of have to educate them with that, and get the right inspector who helps with that too. Yeah. Personally, I love walking in a basement and being able to like point things out to my clients. I give myself a pat on the back for that. Like that right there, they cut a hole in this joist and that is too big of a hole. So the inspector is going to write that up. What does it mean? It's not a huge issue. I'm just letting you know, they're going to write that up. Like you can reinforce it and the house will be fine.
Yeah. But that's so important to know beforehand, because people just get so scared when they're already under contract. Yeah. They're like, once you're under contract and you tell them, hey, like I had my situation with my wife when we bought the home that we live in right now. I had been involved in many transactions before myself. Yeah. When I went there, like the deck, you could see a deck was old. Yeah. And it had, I wouldn't say it was sinking, but it was kind of sinking. Yeah. But I was like, that's something that's probably like $2,000, $2,500, just to go ahead and switch this. Yeah. But my wife was like, whoa, what is this? This thing is going to sink it. We're going to be up there and it's going to fall. Yeah. So just having the right person just tell you, okay, hey, this is the reality.
Yeah. Well, that's true too. And it's a very emotional time for people. You know that. I know that. But sometimes you just have to like keep it real. Let them know, there's always a plan. There's always a way you can fix it. Yes, it could cost money, but what's the magnitude of that money? You can talk to some contractors. You can get quotes. You can get a better understanding of it because people just don't know. And then, if you're under contract for a house that's, let's say, $700,000 and you have some issue with the deck that maybe costs $2,500 to fix. Yeah. Like, is it worth throwing the house away because of that? Or can you talk to a contractor, get a couple opinions, and then, renegotiate or whatever and close on the property? Like, if you love the home, but there's one small issue, you can get past that, or two small issues. Yeah. But people get emotional, and sometimes they get caught on things,
Yeah, no, listen, even when you're buying brand new houses, I feel like there's actually probably more issues on brand new houses than on an old house sometimes, So it's it's just so important to have the right person, helping you and leading you, because there's so many unknowns, and then you have the emotional part. That's a tough one, That's a tough one.
Yeah, I always like to ask my buyers if they've ever like seen an inspection report, and then I'll share one for like my house or something. I'll be like, yeah, this house is 100 years old. You're gonna have 50 pages of inspection items, but how many of those are critical and how many are, what's the real cost? But if they've never seen one, it could be scary to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this house. Oh, there's 78 defects. Like, I don't know if I want to buy it.
Red. Yeah. And then sometimes they go ahead and put like the actual, like the estimated cost. And I feel like, that doesn't cost $4,000. That costs $500. But Yeah, that's
a slip. You got to be careful. You want to give them an expectation, but also I always say, let's talk to a contractor.
Yeah.
I don't want you to hold it over me if I'm off by a little bit.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people are just always, and I get it where inspectors come, you never want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then have that phone call later on. And at the same time, it's kind of like an attorney. An attorney is never going to tell you, hey, everything's going to be fine.
No, I mean,
they're like, okay, so
worst
listen,
case scenario.
Is what's going to happen. You could go to jail. But it's it's always you have to have the right team. Always.
I was just going to say the same exact thing.
You have to have the right team.
It's awful being on a transaction where I don't know the lender or the attorney, and there's no communication. Sometimes the emails are flying around between the two attorneys, and they just feel the need to kick everyone off. It's like how are we going through the transaction? There's 6, 8 of us on a team going through this transaction together. Why are there 2 people communicating and everyone else is just in the dark? I sold a house a couple months ago, and a very similar situation where the attorneys were just going back and forth with no one else on it. And I'm like, my client would call me and he would give me an update, and I'd be like, when did that happen? He called me. He's like, hey, we settled on, we gave him a small credit. We settled, and so we're good. We're gonna move forward and sign it. And I was like, credit for what? What do you? How much? It wound up being great, and I told him sign it and run. But yeah, it just hurts the deal. You have to have the right team, stick together, communicate, and do what's right for the clients, either your seller or your buyer. So
yeah, there's always I feel like there's always somebody. I mean, everyone has an ego, but there's always someone with a bigger ego in the group. And
don't work with those people, man. You don't need that.
I know, man. Well, this is the thing. I was having a conversation with one of the agents that I always work with, and I was like, listen, next time, that's it. If we just get somebody, we got to tell these people that they're all, we're all together.
Yeah.
Because we had a situation where literally the attorney just disappeared. The attorney completely disappeared, and I'm like, hey, I need an addendum. And it's like, oh no, we gotta close on a Friday. Oh no, the guy's in court on Fridays.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, bro, come on, and this is when things go wrong, because there's always something that
at the last minute,
you need to start pushing people, and I don't want to worry about hey, I said the wrong thing to this guy and he's gonna get offended. It's we just gotta have that mentality of hey, let's find a solution. We're gonna get this done.
Yeah.
So I was telling her, I was like, look, from now on, we come as a team. This is what you get, And obviously, there's one-offs here and there, but you got to try to just work with people that how they're gonna work, because it always works out it's the best thing for the client.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
totally with you.
It's the best thing for the client. So what's your advice to sellers right now? Well, if you come across, I mean, you were saying that you do a lot of cold call. What's your advice?
No, I was saying I need to do more cold calling.
You need to. Oh, okay.
Yeah. My advice for sellers, I think it's again if the time is right for you, then it's the right time. I don't think it's good to try to time the market. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where the rates are going to go. People can take an educated guess, but at the end of the day, there's no guarantees. There's no crystal ball, right?
Yeah.
I just try, again, manage the expectation and try to talk through the comps. Sometimes the seller, they know that their house is the best on the block, better than all the equivalent houses.
Like their kid,
What's that?
It's like their kid.
Yeah.
You're never gonna tell. Yeah, your son is not that good. That doesn't.
Yeah, tell them that.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just same thing, managing that expectation. If you're looking at comps with them, you can bring up pictures and be, how does this kitchen compare to your kitchen?
Yeah.
Aside from the memories and the joy and all the years that you spent in it, photo for photo, how does it compare? And then that can help out. But so far, I mean, I work with most of the people I work with. I'm very happy to work with them.
Listen, you're a cool guy, so it's easy to
appreciate it. Yeah. There was one. I was talking with someone I had a listing appointment, and it was a large house, but it was built with like multiple extensions, so it was awkward because it started as like an 800 square foot house, and it became like a 4,500 square foot house.
Jesus Christ, that's like how many extensions? Like 20?
Yeah. They basically rebuilt the house, but on top, like using the existing one.
Yeah.
So it's just awkward. Like the 800 square feet there feel like it doesn't belong. And so, like, based on the square footage, the sellers were telling me where they thought they would be, and I was like, we're off by multiple six figures, like $300,000 or $400,000. And they didn't list it with me, and I'm kind of thankful for that. But I've kept an eye on it, and I know that they just fired someone, and they're gonna go. They were talking about doing like a FSBO. I hope they can make the most they can make, but they have to adjust their expectation to like what the reality is, because in their area, like they're competing with like brand new construction where they're listed. Yeah. And if you could get brand new of a house that is a home that was thought out in one concept that makes sense, like you can't compete with that with, their home that they have.
Yeah, I feel like just sometimes people don't listen, and people wait too long to take action. The same thing for buyers, the same thing for sellers. A lot of times it's just about making sure that you plan and you actually do your research and you have the right people. Because sometimes, it's just about the reality. It's like a house. I've seen houses that they're big, but they have that old feel to it. There's nothing
not in a good way, not that old charm.
Yeah, no.
We get creative with our descriptions. That's charming.
It's not a farmhouse, okay? It's not it's basically like old. Yeah. And hey, very well cleaned and maintained, but it's old.
Okay.
So a lot of times just people they just don't want to listen. That all they have to do is like some little updating that we just have to like make sure that we dress it in a better way, and that just takes time.
Or clean it.
Or clean it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or clean it. Literally, sometimes that's all it takes. Cleaning and painting, and that takes time. I get a lot of phone calls for people wanting to list their homes, and I go like, when are you thinking about listing? And they go, it's December. I'm like, no, you got to start doing your research now. You got to sit down with. If you want me to refer you somebody, and if you don't like that person, just go sit down with multiple people, and then you're gonna see the reality of what other people tell you, right? Because a lot of times it's just like, hey, I just want to do basic things. Like if you take care of the floors, you just do I don't know, just make them shinier or something. Yeah.
It could just be paint.
It could just be paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's immediately you're gonna get a lot more money for that.
Yeah.
Well, just people just. Sometimes they're lazy. And the same thing with buyers.
Or people, not necessarily people.
Let's not call them lazy.
Maybe they're busy. Or
they're busy.
Work's breaking their back. They got 30 dogs in your apartment.
Yeah, sorry about that. I shouldn't have used that. But no, sometimes people are just like, okay, they just don't want to listen. And I think it's important that as our job as real estate professionals to just tell them, okay, look, this is what you should do. And then if they listen, they listen. But the same thing with buyers. Sometimes it's like, okay, I push people. Like, do you want to buy a house? Look, let's sit down. Let's do the numbers. Let's see where you are. Yeah. Because if we can get your credit score up 20 points, 5 points from a 715 to a 720, you're going to save a ton of money. Yeah, so it's tough out there. But
well, that's it. You have to put a plan in place and then just take small steps. Yeah. Every day work towards that, and then over time, it can be something great. Yeah. 1 house, 2 houses, 10 houses, whatever you want.
But let me ask you, let's talk about the flip, the one that I saw in it's a Teaneck?
Teaneck, yeah.
Teaneck.
Yeah.
So when is that your flip or is that?
Yeah, I have a partner. So the two of us, we bought it in December.
And how did you buy the house? Like, how did you get it?
We used hard money. Okay. So a little bit of private lending, a little bit of private money, and then hard money for the loan.
But how did you find the house?
That was on market.
That was on the market. Okay.
Yeah. But we did what we had to do to get the house. So we offered, we waived everything, and we made it easy for them, and we basically get everything they wanted. We gave them. The closing date, the inspection waiver, the appraisal waiver. We were like, hey, we want it, whatever it takes, we'll get it. And sometimes that's what you have to do. It's not, you have to be prepared for that and ready for that, but
yeah,
sometimes that's what it takes to get the house right now.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to, it took
so we closed on December 27th.
December, okay.
And I think, there were the holidays, so I think we had guys in there on like January 4th, maybe. Maybe about 4 months it took to fully renovate it. And now it's on the market, and yeah, we'll see. I have a good feeling.
That'll be well.
Yeah.
So, what went into the planning? How do you go about saying, okay, what, how did you decide what's going to get fixed, what's going to get done? What's the process to decide, okay, this is what we have and this is what we want to get to?
So my partner, Ron, he's a GC, and I've seen his work, and I've helped sell some of his houses. And he's good. He doesn't cut corners. It's not like a BS flip. Mm-hmm. We did not intend to go in and paint the walls and take the trash out and relist it, or sometimes you go in and the floors are not connected properly and there's little gaps, or you could tell the kitchen is old, but then they put in a new backsplash and it doesn't match the countertop, and you're like, what the hell are these people thinking? That's how. But I trusted him. This is our first partnership, but I've seen his work, and I know that he puts pride into it, and he does everything. So that was the plan. I mean, this place was, I don't know if you've seen the videos, but I have
saw
videos.
Yeah, it was,
there's a
I
before.
saw
There's a before. Oh yeah, the chairlift.
Yeah, the chairlift. That was we don't have one of those here, but
Yeah.
That was actually funny. I was like,
it was pretty funny. Yeah, my friend jumped on it while we were there.
Yeah.
I probably would have never sat in it if I didn't bring my friend along, but you gotta have fun while you're doing it. So,
yeah.
So yeah, it needed a lot of work. So it was a gut, and everything was done. The floors, the walls, the doors, the electric, the plumbing, the bathrooms, the kitchen, the basement, new HVAC, 27 windows, I think.
27 windows. Wow.
27, I think. So yeah, we weren't going in for a quick turnaround. It was this needs a gut, and everything needs to look right. So now, when people go in, I hosted the open house last weekend, but when people go in, it might not be the perfect home for everybody, but nobody leaves and says oh, that wasn't good craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Right? They leave and they're like, that house was beautiful. Which is good, because then you're not really competing with every other flipper.
Yeah.
There are other guys that do really exceptional work, but you're trying to be a class above that, which helps on the sale.
I feel like if you do a bad job, people will know eventually, and they'll that will carry on with your name. If you're trying to do this, as a business, people will come back and say, oh, I think I know those guys. Those guys are not good.
Yeah, there could be a space for it if you're buying something at a low enough number. Then maybe the plan is, just give it a very quick facelift. Like we're talking about, maybe it's filled with trash and it stinks and the carpets are old, and you rip out the carpets and you paint and you clean out the trash and you relist it. So maybe you spend $20,000 and you sell it for $80,000 more or whatever.
Yeah.
There could be a place for that, but the plan for this was not the case.
It was not the case, yeah.
The chairlift had to go, unfortunately.
Yeah. Would you recommend, someone, the market is so hard right now.
Yeah.
Would you recommend to someone like a first-time home buyer to go ahead and do get a renovation loan and do a project like this, or it's something
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people always have the thought, I'm sure it happens with you, where people start changing they're like, we could buy something turnkey, but TV shows make it look fun to renovate. So yeah, it comes up all the time. They're like, what if we built from the ground up?
And
I'll be like, well, have you have you built anything? Like,
Yeah.
do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
Are you able to deal with that added stress on top of having, a 6-month-old baby and whatever else? Because things go wrong. You have to manage contractors. It's very stressful. You have to get permits. You have to deal with the town. So it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm again, it's all like expectations. But I'm open to, working with a client and being like, if they're okay with like small projects like a kitchen renovation, then I try to let them like see the vision of the home. Be like, I know right now it doesn't sparkle, but what if you put 20 grand into the kitchen and buy, this house is a little less than what we've been looking at. So maybe you'd be able to save that money, put it in the kitchen, drive the value up, and then make it, custom to what you want as opposed to whatever you're getting from the last person.
Yeah.
So it's really up to your buyers and like what they're comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's always, you couldn't have put it better. The word, it's like if the person is up to it,
yeah,
it's a really good deal.
Yeah,
I've seen how how people have been able to use renovation loans to basically have the house of their dreams. But at the same time, you do have to handle with the added stress, like you said.
Yeah.
Because for anybody dealing with contractors, it's not like you're paying them and they're taking care of everything.
No, there's always an issue.
Yeah.
And so I from my project management job, I like dealt with subcontractors, and I think that has helped me too in like where I'm at now. Is like when I hire someone, you just have to control payments for one. You have to be clear with the scope. Like it should be written. You can have photos. You can obviously have a contract, but even just payments and payment schedule, like you can control that. Because the worst case is like you get ahead on payments and then, they've done half the work, but you've given them all the money. So like, where's the incentive to finish the job?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not just because they're trying to, steal your money. Sometimes it's simply they just don't have the manpower to do it, and things are not. And once you pay, things feel like they need to be moving faster.
Right.
Once the money's out of your account, you're like, I want to see a result right away.
Yeah. Well, I had a dispute with someone on a house, and thankfully I was like way ahead. I mean, it was a bad spot to be in, and I didn't enjoy it particularly, but like I was way ahead. Like I had more of the money than he had work completed somehow. I controlled it, and I was in a good spot. So we got to a resolution. We cut the price a little bit. I paid him everything. We agreed and kind of parted ways, but you just have to control it. Because if it was the other way, if I had paid him too much, then I would just be screwed. And it's like, well, that sucked.
So now, if you had, like, what is the one area in New Jersey where you feel like there is the most value right now? I mean, North Jersey is so crazy. And I feel like everyone's trying to look for the next big thing, right? What would be the one area that you say, okay, you know what? That's the one place that I will put money into. That will buy a house right now and get a steal.
I don't know if I can give that away on a podcast. No.
I mean, I want you to give it away.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think like deals are harder to find, and like I always think it's good if people try to go off market even, you know? Like that's a good strategy, and that's coming from a realtor. Like, I'll help you on market, but if you're investing, like off market there's still potential there.
But now let me ask you, what's the benefit for a seller to go off market? Because I've seen, I'm sure you have read the last few articles with Compass and all these companies where they're trying to push their off market listings. Yeah. And I always ask myself, what is the benefit to the seller?
Well, I mean, if they want to get like the maximum price, then you need to list it on the market. You need to list it with someone professional like myself. Get quality photos, quality marketing, get a real plan in place to list it and get that out to the public, to as many eyes as possible, to find the right buyers. But some people don't want to do that. Some people have too much like junk that they've hoarded, or they're not comfortable with having an open house, or they have 30 dogs and they don't want people coming, you know, they don't want people to come in. So that's their choice, you know, and, some people just choose. They'd rather have fewer people, or they think like maybe they don't realize even like how much they could get on market. But you know, if I'm talking to someone as like a listing, I can explain that. Like, if you want to maximize it, then you need to list it on the market. Like that's how you're going to maximize what you walk away with.
No,
but if it's easier to, you know, keep the tenants in place and, you know, waive the appraisal, waive the inspections, and, you know, I'll be straight up with them because I do some like postcards and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I follow up with people to try to buy, and like I'll have those conversations. I'll be like, if you want to list it, we can list it. You know, license, I can take care of that. But if you and I can work something out, you know, I'll make it as easy as possible. Like closings on your terms. You know, I'll keep the tenants. Yeah, I've offered to take a tenant that wasn't paying. And like evict, but I didn't get that one. But it's going to come back. It's coming back.
I mean, maybe you know what, making that mistake that some people make, but like maybe because I had the bad experience. It's
you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
well, this woman, you know, I've been talking to her for like it's probably a year at this point, back and forth, and she owns some investment properties, and one of them, she reaches out to me when she has an issue, and she'll be like, you know. I don't have the energy for this. Like, she's not paying. What do I do? And so I'll tell her. I'll be like, I will. I told her, I was like, I will take on that headache. I would like to take on that headache. Well, she's like, no, you don't want to deal with this. And I was like, you and I are at different points of our lives. I'm like, she's an older woman. I'm like, you're like on the verge of retirement. Like, you're tired. You know, I was saying all this in a nicer way, but I'm like, you don't want to deal with the headache, but like, I want the headache. Like I want to take that on so that I can, you know, at a discount. But
I had that issue myself. So on that house, I actually ended up just like quit claiming it to an investor, a friend of mine.
Oh, so you sold it with the tenants in place, or?
Yeah. So basically, long story short, this was at the end, right before the pandemic. Literally, my wife was pregnant. I was not in a good place at all, and it was basically like, hey, I got no money. And I had like, you know, all sorts of like issues, legal issues and everything. It was kind of like at the end of a loan. And this was the last thing that I needed to like get rid of my plate.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I had him on the podcast. You maybe know him. He does a lot in Newark, Anthony Marine from MIG Properties. And I was like, dude, you got to help me out here. You know, like I couldn't even talk to this lady. I couldn't even go there. It was like a bad one. Yeah. But basically I was like, look, I can deal with it. Like you take care of everything. You get rid of those people, and then I'll just quit claim this property.
Yeah.
And that was literally right before the pandemic. And now that property ended up selling for way more money down the line.
Yeah.
But that was a great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great benefit to him, but not just to him, to myself, because other people end up looking and say, "Oh, I mean, he made a ton of money and you didn't make anything." I'm like, no, like I was free.
Yeah, yeah.
So sometimes, you know, like...
some people want that.
But. Yeah, sometimes, you know, when you approach it that way, a lot of people are just desperate. You know, a lot of people are just desperate just to...
or they don't have time or energy to deal with that.
I wasn't lazy.
If somebody else...
I wasn't lazy, okay? I was not lazy.
Yeah.
The other people are lazy, but not me.
I was going to say that, yes.
You were going to call... I knew. I was like, he's going to call me out.
No. No, it's a lot of energy and time, but, you know, everyone, you can choose whatever you want, you know? So if you're the buyer, the seller, you know, it's your life. So if somebody offers you an easier way out and it's whatever, a little less money, maybe that's the right choice for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, as we start wrapping up, I want to ask you, you're a first-time agent, you just got your license. Mm-hmm. What's your advice?
I think, you know, there's a million different things that you can do. Like you can cold call, you can door knock, you can send mailers, you can start a podcast, you can do anything. I think that it's important to like pick one and just go all in and just be consistent. So if you're going to cold call, like circle prospect, then do that, you know, every day and just keep going for months, and then you'll see. It takes time, but you'll see the payoff. When I started, I was a little scattered. I would do a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and I had probably a little bit slower to like get rolling. But yeah, I think that's important. Pick one. And then, you know, nowadays everybody has to do social media, but that can't be your go-to. You don't start as an agent and say like, oh, my main way of like farming business is social media. Like you can grow to that, but you need to supplement that with something else. If your main thing starting out is social media, it's going to take you. You're probably not going to make it. You're not going to be able to have enough to be like full time.
You gotta have enough people to basically to talk for you, to sell you out there, to say, hey, that guy did it for me, help me out.
Yeah, it just takes time. But if you're you know, door knocking every day, you know, or at least 5 days a week, you know, if you're door knocking, like over time, that is going to work. You're going to get clients. And if you're circle prospecting, if you're calling every day, you're going to get clients. It's almost like it's like hunting for business kind of versus like waiting for it to come to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that's important. I would pick one thing and just go at it every day.
Well, listen, man, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, I'm a big fan of the events.
Appreciate
it. You know, I would love to have something like that if I had the. You know, it's not that easy to do. But
people say that, but sometimes they ask me like, how do you know how to throw the event? And I'm basically like, have you ever made a dinner reservation? Like,
yeah.
I call the venue and I'm like, hey, can I book this on May 20th? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll see you there. Yeah. And then I'm good. But
it's a consistency.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a consistency. But listen, I know we're gonna see big things of you in the future.
I appreciate it.
Definitely gonna probably be there on May 20th.
Yeah.
And listen, thank you so much, and that's pretty much it, man.
Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Yeah.
I can't believe. What did we do? 20 minutes?
Nah, we did. What did we do, Ian?
A little over an hour.
I knew it would fly by, but this has been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I always get it on time. And by the way, Ian is the Goose Media. He's the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I always keep it. And you see me checking, but I'm pretty. It never goes past. Actually, this might be the first one that went past an hour. Yeah. See?
We can sit for hours. I mean,
yeah,
this was fun.
Start drinking here.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man.
Thank
Thanks
you
so much.
Right?
Oh, that's good. Thank you.